The blood on Helena Thorne's hands would not wash away no matter how hard she scrubbed. And it was not even noon yet on that blistering July day in 1878 when the cowboy first saw her collapse beside the chicken coop. The crimson stains came from butchering, from endless work, from fingers cracked and bleeding, because there was no time to let them heal. Fort Lyon, Colorado had been merciless to her since Thomas died 6 months past, leaving her with 2 children, a failing ranch, and debts that multiplied like locusts in summer. Vincent Oakley had been riding the boundary of the neighboring property when he spotted her through the shimmering heat waves. One moment she was standing, the next she was on her knees in the dust, her entire body swaying like a cottonwood in a storm. He spurred his horse forward without thinking, crossing onto her land in a matter of seconds. By the time he reached her, she had fallen completely, her face pressed against the sun-scorched earth, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "Madam," he said, dismounting quickly and kneeling beside her. His shadow fell across her body, offering momentary relief from the punishing sun. "Madam, can you hear me?" Helena's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glassy. She tried to push herself up, but her arms had no strength left. "The chickens," she whispered. "I need to finish with the chickens." Vincent looked at the scattered feed, the open coop, the bucket lying on its side. He could see the whole picture painted before him, a woman working herself into the grave trying to do the job of 3 men. "The chickens will keep," he said firmly. "Right now, you need water and shade." "I do not know you," she managed to say, though her voice was barely audible. "Name's Vincent Oakley. I work the Brennan Ranch next door." He slipped his arms beneath her, surprised at how light she felt, as if she had been slowly disappearing day by day. "I'm going to carry you inside now." She wanted to protest. He could see it in her eyes, that stubborn pride that had probably kept her going long past the point where most would have surrendered. But her body had finally betrayed her determination, and she could do nothing but allow herself to be lifted. Her head fell against his chest, and he could feel the fever radiating through her thin cotton dress. The house was small but tidy, despite everything. Vincent pushed the door open with his boot and carried her to the narrow bed in the corner of the main room. As he laid her down, a small boy appeared from behind a curtain that separated the sleeping area, his eyes wide with fear. "Mama!" The child could not have been more than 5 years old, his face smudged with dirt, his clothes patched and repatched. "Your mama is going to be fine," Vincent said, though he was not entirely certain of that himself. "What's your name, son?" "Joseph." "Is mama sick?" "She's tired, that's all. Real tired." "Is there anyone else here, your sister or brother?" Joseph nodded. "Lily's out back at the well. She's 8. Vincent found a cloth and dampened it from the water pitcher on the table, then pressed it to Helena's forehead. Her skin was burning hot, and he wondered how long she had been pushing herself while fighting off illness. "Joseph, I need you to do something for me. Can you run and get your sister?" The boy hesitated, looking between Vincent and his mother. "Go on now. I'll stay right here with her." Joseph darted out the back door, and Vincent heard him calling for Lily. He turned his attention back to Helena, whose eyes had opened again. They were the color of amber, he noticed, rich and deep despite the exhaustion that clouded them. "You should not be here," she said. "People will talk. Let them talk." Vincent wrung out the cloth and folded it fresh across her forehead. "When did you last eat a proper meal?" She did not answer, which was answer enough. A girl appeared in the doorway, her hair in 2 neat braids despite the obvious poverty of her circumstances. She held Joseph's hand tightly, her young face set in an expression of worry that no child should have to wear. "Who are you?" she demanded, stepping protectively in front of her brother. "Lily, I take it." Vincent stood slowly, keeping his movements calm and unthreatening. I'm Vincent Oakley from next door. I found your mama collapsed outside. She's got a fever and she's exhausted herself near to death." Lily's lower lip trembled, but she held herself together with visible effort. "She's been sick for 3 days, but she would not stop working. We have debts to Mr. Carlson at the bank. He says if we cannot pay by the end of August, he'll take the ranch." Vincent felt anger kindle in his chest. Samuel Carlson was known for his ruthlessness, a carpetbagger who had come west after the war and made his fortune on other people's misery. "How much does she owe?" $200. The sum might as well have been $2 million for all the chance this struggling family had of raising it. From the bed, Helena tried to sit up again. "Lily, you should not be telling him our business." "Mama, lie down." Lily rushed to her mother's side, her protective stance crumbling into childish fear. "Please, Mama, you have to rest." Vincent watched the way Helena's hand trembled as she touched her daughter's cheek, saw the tears that threatened to spill from both their eyes. He thought of his own mother, dead these 10 years, and how she had worked herself into an early grave trying to provide for her children after his father was killed in the war. He had been powerless then, just a boy of 12, but he was not powerless now. "Rest now," he said to Helena, his voice gentle but firm. "I'll carry your burdens too." She looked at him as if he had spoken in a foreign tongue. "What? You heard me right. I'll take care of things until you're back on your feet." He turned to Lily before Helena could protest. "Show me what needs doing." The list was staggering. The chickens needed feeding and the eggs collecting. The cow needed milking. There was fence that needed mending on the north pasture. The vegetable garden was being overrun by weeds. Firewood needed chopping. Water needed hauling. The barn roof was leaking in 2 places. And beyond all that, there were the regular daily tasks of cooking and cleaning and caring for 2 young children. Vincent rolled up his sleeves. "Lily, you stay here with your mama and keep that cloth cool on her head. Joseph, you come with me. We'll start with the animals." "You really going to help us?" Joseph asked as they walked toward the chicken coop, his small hand reaching up to take Vincent's much larger one. "I really am." "Why?" It was a fair question. Vincent thought about how to answer as he scattered feed for the agitated hens. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because your mama's trying her best, and sometimes our best is not enough without help. Because nobody should have to face hard times alone." Joseph considered this seriously, then nodded as if Vincent had passed some kind of test. "Papa used to say that. Your papa was a wise man." They worked through the afternoon, Vincent moving from task to task with Joseph as his shadow. The boy was eager to help, showing Vincent where things were kept and explaining his mother's routines. By evening, Vincent had mended the worst of the fence, milked the cow, collected the eggs, and hauled enough water to last a few days. His own work at the Brennan Ranch would be waiting for him tomorrow, but John Brennan was a fair man who would understand if Vincent explained the situation. As the sun began its descent toward the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Vincent returned to the house. Lily had managed to get some broth into Helena, and the fever seemed to have broken slightly, though she still looked weak as a newborn kitten. "You should go," Helena said when she saw him. "You have done too much already. I'll come back tomorrow." Vincent settled his hat on his head. "Lily, there's a pot of beans on the stove. Make sure you and Joseph eat and get some food into your mama too." "Thank you," Lily whispered, and the gratitude in her eyes was almost painful to see. Vincent rode back to the Brennan Ranch as darkness fell, his mind churning. He had meant what he said about coming back, but he also knew that a few days of help would not solve Helena Thorne's problems. She needed sustained assistance, and more than that, she needed a way to pay off that debt to Carlson. John Brennan was sitting on his porch when Vincent arrived, smoking his pipe and watching the stars emerge. "You're late," he observed mildly. Vincent tied his horse and climbed the porch steps, explaining what had happened. John listened without interruption, his weathered face thoughtful in the lamplight that spilled from the windows. "The widow Thorne," John said when Vincent finished, "heard about her husband's passing. Thrown from a horse, was not it?" "That's what Joseph said." John puffed his pipe. "You planning to keep helping her?" "I am." "Good man." John nodded slowly. "Her land borders ours on the south side. If Carlson takes it, he'll likely sell to someone less neighborly than a widow and her children. Could mean trouble down the line. I'll give you mornings to work her place. Afternoons you work here. We'll call it even." Relief flooded through Vincent. "Thank you, sir." "Do not thank me yet. You'll be doing double the work for the same pay." But John's eyes twinkled with something that might have been approval. Vincent was back at Helena's ranch before sunrise the next morning, startling Lily as she tried to get the fire going in the stove. "Let me do that," he said. "You get your brother up and ready." "Mom has fever's worse again," Lily told him, her voice small with worry. Vincent went to check on Helena. Her face was flushed, and when he touched her forehead, the heat nearly burned his palm. "We need to get a doctor out here." "No." Helena's eyes opened, fever bright but determined. "Cannot afford it. I'll pay for it." "No." She tried to sit up, failed. "I will not be in your debt. I do not even know you." "You do not have to know me to accept help." Vincent sat on the edge of the bed, mindful of propriety but more concerned with making her understand. "Mrs. Thorne, you've got a serious fever. If you do not get proper care, you'll die." Then what happens to Lily and Joseph? That reached her. He saw the fight drain out of her, saw the terrible fear that lurked beneath her pride. "I cannot pay you back." "I am not asking you to." He stood. "I'm riding into Fort Lyon for the doctor. Lily can manage things here for a couple hours." The ride to town took 40 minutes, and Vincent used every minute to think. Dr. Samuel Morrison had his office above the general store, and Vincent found him preparing for his morning rounds. "Fever, you say?" Morrison gathered his supplies into his worn leather bag. "How long has she had it?" 4 days at least, maybe longer. She's been working herself sick trying to keep that ranch running." Morrison shook his head. "Pride'll kill you faster than most diseases. Let's go see what we can do." The doctor's examination was thorough but quick. Helena tried to protest the indignity of it, but she was too weak to put up much resistance. When Morrison finished, his expression was grave. "Pneumonia," he announced. "Not too far advanced yet, but it'll get worse before it gets better. She needs complete bed rest for at least 2 weeks, maybe 3. Plenty of fluids, good food if you can manage it, and these powders dissolved in water 3 times a day." 3 weeks. Helena's voice cracked with desperation. "I cannot be abed for 3 weeks." "You'll be abed a lot longer than that if you do not rest now. Permanently, most like." Morrison packed up his bag. "Young man, can you see to it she follows my orders?" Vincent looked at Helena's pale, drawn face, at the stubborn set of her jaw even in extremity. "I'll do my best." "Good." Morrison named his fee, and Vincent paid it without hesitation despite Helena's protests. When the doctor left, promising to check on her in a few days, Helena turned her face to the wall. "You should not have done that," she said. Vincent pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. "Mrs. Thorne, I understand pride. I've got plenty of it myself. But there comes a time when you have to accept that you cannot do everything alone. This is that time. You do not understand." Her voice was thick with unshed tears. "Thomas has been gone 6 months, and every day I wake up wondering how I'll keep his children safe and fed. Every day I work until I cannot stand, and it's still not enough. And now, you a stranger, you come in and you see how badly I've failed." "You have not failed." Vincent leaned forward, his voice intense. "Listen to me. You're one woman trying to do the work of 3 men. The fact that you've lasted this long is remarkable, but you do not have to keep breaking yourself. Let me help." "Why?" She turned to look at him, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "Why do you care what happens to us?" Vincent was silent for a moment, searching for the right words. "I watched my mother work herself to death after my father died. I was too young to stop her, too young to do the heavy work that needed doing. I swore if I ever had the chance to help someone in the same position, I would, so that's what I'm doing." Helena studied his face, and whatever she saw there seemed to ease something in her. "I do not know how I can ever repay you. Get better. That's payment enough." He stood. "Now I'm going to make some breakfast for those children of yours, and you're going to rest like the doctor ordered." Over the following days, a routine established itself. Vincent would arrive before dawn and work through the morning, tackling the endless list of tasks that had accumulated during Thomas Thorne's illness and after his death. Lily proved herself a capable helper, and young Joseph was eager despite his small size. Helena remained bedridden, her fever slowly breaking under the doctor's treatment, though her weakness persisted. Vincent found himself looking forward to his visits to the Thorne ranch, and not just because of the work. There was something about the small family that called to him. Lily's quiet courage, Joseph's innocent joy at small things, like a bird's nest found in the barn or a particularly colorful beetle. And Helena herself, who even in illness maintained a grace and strength that stirred something in Vincent's chest. One evening about a week after Helena had collapsed, Vincent was finishing up the day's work when she called to him from the bed. "Mr. Oakley, could you spare a moment?" He washed his hands in the basin and came to sit in the chair that had become his customary spot. "How are you feeling?" "Better. Strong enough to say a proper thank you, at least." Helena had color in her cheeks again, though she was still frighteningly thin. "I have been ungracious in my fear and pride. What you've done for us, what you're still doing, it's beyond kindness." "You would do the same if positions were reversed." "Would I?" She smiled slightly. "I'd like to think so, but I wonder. The world makes us hard, Mr. Oakley. It makes us think we must protect what's ours and be suspicious of generosity." "Vincent. You can call me Vincent." "Then you must call me Helena." She paused, seeming to gather her courage. "Vincent, I need to tell you about the debt, about what happened." "You do not have to, I do. You're working yourself half to death for us. You deserve to know why we're in this position." Helena took a shaky breath. Thomas was a good man, but he was not a practical one. He dreamed big and invested in those dreams, cattle that never materialized, equipment we could not afford. He borrowed from the bank to cover costs, always certain the next season would be better. And then he died, and the bills came due, and I discovered just how deep in debt we truly were. Vincent listened, his jaw tight. It was a common enough story in these parts. Good people gambling everything on hope, losing it all to circumstance and bad luck. "Carlson gave me until the end of August to pay $200 or lose the ranch," Helena continued. "I've been trying to sell everything that is not essential, but there are not many buyers and even fewer willing to pay a fair price to a desperate widow." "What about Thomas's family?" "Your own." Helena's expression darkened. "Thomas's parents died in the cholera epidemic of '73. My own family disowned me when I married him. They thought he was beneath me, not suited for a banker's daughter." Her laugh was bitter. "They were right in a way, though not how they meant it. Thomas was too good for this world, too trusting. He was not cut out for the hardness it demands." Vincent wanted to reach for her hand but held back, aware of propriety even in these unusual circumstances. "There has to be a way to raise the money. I have been trying to think of one for months. The cattle we have left are barely worth $50. The land itself is good, but selling part of it would not solve the problem because Carlson wants the whole property. He's made that clear. There's still a month. A lot can happen in a month. Helena looked at him with those amber eyes, and Vincent felt something shift in his chest. You're an optimist, Vincent Oakley. Someone has to be. That night, back at the Brennan Ranch, Vincent found John on the porch again. It seemed to be where the old rancher did his best thinking. "John, I need advice," Vincent said without preamble. "Figured you might." John gestured to the other chair. "Sit down. Tell me what is eating at you." Vincent explained Helena's situation, the debt, the deadline. John listened in his patient way, occasionally puffing his pipe. $200, John mused when Vincent finished. "That's a substantial sum." "I have some savings, but not nearly enough. You thinking of loaning her the money? I am thinking I need to help her earn it, or find a way to get Carlson to back off." John shook his head. "Carlson will not back off. That ranch is worth far more than $200, and he knows it. He'll take it, sell it for profit, and sleep fine at night doing it." Vincent felt frustration building in his chest. "So what do you suggest?" "I suggest," John said slowly, "that you think carefully about what you're getting yourself into. You're already spending half your days over there. You're paying for doctors and medicine. Now you're contemplating taking on a woman's debt. People in town are starting to notice. Let them notice." "Vincent," John's voice was kind but firm, "I'm not saying do not help her. I'm saying make sure you understand why you're helping her. Is it charity? Or is it something more?" The question hung in the air between them. Vincent wanted to deny that it was anything more than Christian charity, neighborly assistance. But sitting here in the darkness with the stars overhead, he could not quite manage the lie. "I care about them," he admitted finally. "All of them, Lily and Joseph and—" He trailed off. "And their mother," John finished. "Nothing wrong with that, son. But a woman like Helena Thorne, she's been through a lot. She's scared and proud and probably not thinking clearly about much beyond survival. If you're developing feelings for her, you need to be sure they are the right kind and that you're not taking advantage of her vulnerability. I would never. I know you would not. But she might worry about it, might wonder if your help comes with expectations. You need to be clear with her and with yourself about what you want." Vincent sat with that for a long moment. What did he want? He wanted Helena to get better. He wanted those children to have a home and security. He wanted to see Helena smile without the shadow of worry behind it. And yes, he wanted more than that too, though he barely dared admit it to himself. He wanted to know her, really know her. He wanted to earn her trust and maybe, if he was very fortunate, something deeper than trust. "I want to help them keep their home," he said finally. "Everything else can wait." John nodded, satisfied. "Then we'll figure something out. Between the two of us, we ought to be able to come up with a solution." The solution, when it came, was unexpected. 3 days later, a rider came to the Brennan Ranch looking for someone to break a string of wild horses. The pay was good $30 for the lot, but the horses were notorious in the region for being unmanageable. Several men had already tried and failed, nursing broken bones and bruised pride. Vincent had a way with horses, always had. Where other men used force and intimidation, he used patience and understanding. John gave him permission to take on the job, and Vincent brought the horses to a remote corner of the Brennan property to work with them. It took 2 weeks of patient, persistent work. 2 weeks of early mornings and late nights, of being thrown and getting back up, of gradually earning the trust of animals that had learned to fear and fight humans. But one by one, the horses gentled under his hands. By the end of the 2nd week, all 6 horses would accept a saddle and rider, responding to commands with only occasional stubbornness. The $30 went into Vincent's savings, bringing him closer to the sum Helena needed. Meanwhile, Helena was recovering. By the third week of her illness, she was able to sit up for extended periods. By the fourth, she was walking around the house, though Vincent and Lily conspired to keep her from returning to heavy work. It gave Vincent a chance to see her as something other than a desperately ill woman. He saw her sense of humor emerge, dry and quick. He saw her gentleness with her children, the way she read to them at night even when she was exhausted. He saw her intelligence and her iron will, the combination that had kept her family afloat against impossible odds. And he saw the way she looked at him sometimes when she thought he was not paying attention, a mixture of gratitude and something else he could not quite name, but that made his heart beat faster. August arrived with its characteristic heat, and with it, the looming deadline. Vincent had managed to save $75 between his wages and the horse-breaking job. Helena had sold everything she could spare and raised another $50. They were still $75 short. "Maybe I could ask for an extension," Helena said one evening as they sat on the porch after supper. Lily and Joseph were inside, supposedly getting ready for bed, but more likely playing quietly. "Maybe Carlson would give me another few months." "Maybe," Vincent said, though they both knew it was unlikely. Helena twisted her hands in her lap, a gesture of nervousness he had come to recognize. "Vincent, I need to say something." He turned to look at her. In the fading light, with her hair loose around her shoulders and her face finally free of illness, she was beautiful. The thought struck him with unexpected force. "I have been so focused on survival that I have not let myself think about what comes after," she began. "If we lose the ranch, I do not know what we'll do. There's no family to take us in, no place to go. I could maybe find work as a seamstress or a laundress in town, but supporting 2 children on those wages." She trailed off, her voice breaking. "It will not come to that," Vincent said firmly. "You cannot promise that." Helena looked at him, her amber eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You've done so much already, more than anyone had a right to expect, but I need to be realistic. I need to prepare Lily and Joseph for the possibility that we might lose our home." Vincent reached over and took her hand before he could think better of it. Her fingers were still too thin, still marked by the scars of hard work, but they fit perfectly in his palm. "Listen to me, Helena. We still have 3 weeks. I'll think of something." "You cannot solve all my problems, Vincent. Watch me try." She laughed despite herself, a sound he had not heard from her before. It was warm and genuine, and it made him want to do whatever it took to hear it again. "You're a stubborn man, Vincent Oakley," she said. "You're one to talk about stubborn, Helena Thorne." They sat in comfortable silence, hands still linked as the night deepened around them. It was a line crossed, Vincent knew. A declaration of something neither of them had spoken aloud. But Helena did not pull her hand away, and Vincent let himself hope. The answer came from an unexpected source. A week later, a representative from the Colorado Cattle Company came through Fort Lyon looking to purchase grazing rights on private land. The company was expanding its operations and needed additional territory to support larger herds. They were offering fair prices and long-term contracts. Vincent heard about it from John Brennan, who had already signed a deal for a portion of his property. "The money's good," John explained. "And you keep ownership of the land. You're just leasing the grazing rights for an annual fee. Might be something for Mrs. Thorne to consider." Vincent rode immediately to Helena's ranch. She was in the garden, supervising as Joseph pulled weeds with more enthusiasm than accuracy. She smiled when she saw Vincent approach, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "You're early today," she observed. "I have news." Vincent dismounted and quickly explained the opportunity. Helena's expression shifted from hope to cautious optimism to calculation. "How much are they paying?" Depends on the acreage and quality of the land. For a spread like yours, could be $150 for the first year plus annual payments after that. $150. Helena pressed a hand to her mouth. That's combined with what we've already saved, it would be enough. You could pay Carlson and have money left over. But the cattle company, would they really be interested in my land? It's not exactly prime grazing territory. It borders both the Brennan Ranch and open range. That makes it valuable for creating a corridor. I think they'd be very interested. Helena looked around her property with new eyes. I never thought about it that way. Thomas always saw this place as a ranch in its own right, not as part of something larger. It can be both. You keep your home, your independence. You just share the grazing rights. When can I meet with them? The meeting was arranged for the following day. Vincent accompanied Helena into Fort Lyon, partly to lend support and partly because he had a better understanding of the technical aspects of grazing rights and contract terms. Lily stayed home to watch Joseph, and Helena wore her best dress, carefully mended and pressed. The representative, a Mr. Harrison, was a practical businessman with a friendly demeanor. He listened to Helena's situation, examined maps of her property, and asked pointed questions about water sources and grass quality. It's good land, he concluded. Not the best I have seen, but good. And the location is advantageous. I can offer you $130 for a one-year contract, renewable annually at a rate to be determined based on market conditions. $150, Helena countered, her voice steady despite the paleness of her face. Harrison raised his eyebrows. That's optimistic, madam. That's fair, she replied. You said yourself the location is advantageous. My property provides direct access to several thousand acres of open range. Without it, your herds would have to detour through rougher territory, which means slower movement and higher costs. $150 is more than fair. Vincent watched her negotiate with something close to awe. This was not a desperate widow begging for help. This was a sharp-minded businesswoman who understood the value of what she had to offer. Harrison considered, then nodded. $140. Final offer. Helena glanced at Vincent, who gave a small nod. Combined with their savings, it would be enough. $140, Helena agreed. Plus a clause guaranteeing me first right of renewal each year at market rate. You drive a hard bargain, Mrs. Thorne. I learned from experience, Mr. Harrison. They shook hands, and Harrison promised to have the contract drawn up within the week. When they left his office, Helena was trembling with a mixture of relief and residual fear. We did it, she whispered as they walked toward where Vincent had tied the horses. We actually did it. You did it, Vincent corrected. That was all you in there. Helena stopped walking and turned to face him. They were on the boardwalk in front of the general store, people passing around them, but she did not seem to notice. No, Vincent, it was not all me. None of this would have been possible without you. You saved us. You saved me. Helena, let me finish. She took a breath. I have been so afraid to trust anyone, to depend on anyone. After Thomas died, I thought I had to do everything alone or I would lose what little I had left. But you showed me that asking for help is not weakness. That accepting kindness is not failure. You gave me back my strength by sharing yours. Vincent wanted to tell her that she had always been strong, that he had just helped her remember it. But before he could speak, she stepped forward and hugged him. It was quick and proper, over almost before it began, but Vincent felt the impact of it straight to his core. Thank you, she murmured. You're welcome. They rode back to the ranch in comfortable silence, the kind that comes when words are not necessary. Vincent helped her unhitch the horse, and as they worked side by side, he found himself memorizing the moment, the golden afternoon light. the sound of Helena humming quietly, the sense of rightness that filled his chest. The contract was signed the following week, and the payment delivered promptly. Helena counted out the bills 3 times, as if unable to believe they were real. Then she asked Vincent to accompany her to the bank. Samuel Carlson looked up with barely concealed surprise when Helena walked into his office. Vincent stayed at her side, a silent support. "Mrs. Thorne," Carlson said smoothly, "I had not expected to see you quite so soon. I am here to settle my account." Helena placed the money on his desk with steady hands. $200, as agreed. I believe that satisfies the debt in full." Carlson's face went through several interesting contortions. "I see. Well, that is unexpected. Is there a problem, Mr. Carlson?" "No, no problem at all." But his tone suggested otherwise. He had clearly been counting on foreclosing on the property. "I'll just count this and draw up the release paperwork." As Carlson counted the money with exaggerated care, obviously hoping to find some discrepancy, Vincent leaned close to Helena and whispered, "You should have seen your face just now." Carlson looked like he swallowed a lemon. Helena suppressed a smile. "It felt good. Is that terrible of me? It's human of you." The paperwork was completed, and Helena walked out of the bank as a woman free and clear of debt. The relief on her face was profound, as if years had been lifted from her shoulders. "I cannot believe it's really over," she said as they walked toward the general store. She had a small list of supplies to purchase, items they had been doing without for months. "It's over," Vincent confirmed. "Your ranch is yours, free and clear. You've got income from the grazing lease." "Things are looking up." Helena stopped and turned to him. "Vincent, we need to talk about what happens now." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you've been working at my ranch for over a month now. You've neglected your own life, your own interests. Now that the crisis is past, you do not have to keep coming around. I can manage from here." Vincent felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Is that what you want? For me to stop coming?" Helena looked away. "What I want is not the point. I cannot keep depending on you. It's not fair to you." "What if I want you to depend on me?" The words came out before Vincent could stop them. "What if I like coming to your ranch every day? What if I've gotten attached to Lily and Joseph and—" He paused, gathering his courage. "And to you?" Helena's eyes widened. "Vincent, I know this is probably not the right time," he continued, the words tumbling out now. "I know you're still grieving Thomas and dealing with everything that's happened, but I need you to know that what I feel for you, it's not pity. It's not just wanting to help, it's more than that." "You barely know me," Helena whispered. "I know you're strong and smart and brave. I know you love your children more than anything. I know you face impossible odds with grace. I know that when you smile, really smile, it's like the sun coming out. I know that I think about you constantly, that I look forward to seeing you every day, that the thought of not being part of your life anymore makes me feel like I cannot breathe properly." Helena stared at him, her expression unreadable. Around them, Fort Lyon went about its business, people passing by with curious glances at the couple having such an intense conversation on the street. "I do not know what to say," Helena finally managed. "You do not have to say anything right now. I just needed you to know." Vincent forced himself to step back to give her space. "I should let you do your shopping. I'll see you tomorrow." "Vincent, wait." Helena caught his arm. This is all very sudden. I need time to think." "Take all the time you need." Vincent walked away before she could see how much her hesitation hurt. He had not expected her to fall into his arms, but he had hoped for something, some sign that his feelings might be reciprocated. Instead, he felt like he had pushed too hard, revealed too much too soon. John Brennan took one look at Vincent's face that evening and poured him a generous measure of whiskey. "Did not go well, I take it." "I'm an idiot," Vincent said, downing the whiskey in one burning swallow. "What did you do?" Vincent explained the conversation. John listened, then poured another measure. "You're not an idiot," John said when Vincent finished. "You're just in love, which sometimes amounts to the same thing, but you did the right thing by being honest with her." She looked terrified. "Of course she did. She's a widow who just barely escaped losing everything. You're a man who holds a lot of power in her life right now. You've helped her save her ranch. You've been her primary support. She's probably worried about all kinds of things, whether her feelings are real or just gratitude, whether she's ready to even think about another man, whether you'd expect her to marry you and take on her children, whether people would judge her for moving on so quickly." Vincent had not thought about it from that angle. "I made her feel pressured. Maybe a little. But better to be honest than to keep pretending it's only neighborly help. She would have figured it out eventually anyway." John clinked his glass against Vincent's. "Give her time. If she feels the same way, she'll come around. If she does not, well, at least you'll know." Vincent did not sleep well that night. He kept replaying the conversation, wishing he had phrased things differently, wishing he had waited, wishing he had kept his mouth shut entirely. By dawn, he had convinced himself that Helena would ask him not to come back to the ranch anymore. But when he arrived at the Thorne property at his usual time, Helena was waiting on the porch. She stood as he dismounted, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. "Good morning," Vincent said cautiously. "Good morning." Helena took a breath. "I did not sleep much last night. I kept thinking about what you said." Vincent's heart hammered in his chest. "Helena, if I made you uncomfortable, you did," she interrupted. "But not in the way you think. You made me uncomfortable because you made me feel things I thought I would never feel again. Things I did not think I deserved to feel." "What do you mean?" Helena came down the porch steps slowly, closing the distance between them. "I loved Thomas. He was a good man, and I grieved him deeply when he died. But if I'm being completely honest, ours was not a passionate love. It was comfortable, friendly. We cared for each other, but there was not fire. I thought that was just how marriage was." Vincent hardly dared to breathe. "And then you came along," Helena continued, her voice soft, "with your kindness and your strength and your stubborn determination to help us. And I found myself feeling things I never felt with Thomas, looking forward to seeing you, missing you when you were not here, noticing the way you smile at Joseph when you think no one is watching, the way you treat Lily like she's capable and intelligent, not just a child to be ordered around. The way you look at me sometimes like I'm precious." "You are precious," Vincent said hoarsely. Helena reached out and took his hand. "I'm scared, Vincent, scared of these feelings, scared of depending on someone again, scared of what people will say, scared of getting it wrong. But I'm more scared of pushing you away and spending the rest of my life wondering what might have been." Hope surged in Vincent's chest. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to see where this goes, slowly, carefully, but I want to try." Helena smiled, tentative and beautiful. "If you're willing to be patient with me, I'll wait as long as you need. Then maybe we could start by you staying for supper tonight, not as hired help but as a guest, a friend, maybe something more." Vincent squeezed her hand gently. "I'd like that very much." The summer days passed in a golden haze. Vincent continued to help around the ranch, but the dynamic had shifted. Now, when they worked side by side, there was an undercurrent of awareness, of possibility. They talked as they worked, sharing stories about their lives. Helena told him about growing up as the daughter of a strict banker, about how she had met Thomas at a church social and been drawn to his easy laughter and big dreams. Vincent told her about his father dying at Antietam, about his mother's struggle to keep the family farm going, about coming west after she died to start fresh. Lily and Joseph adapted to Vincent's increased presence with the resilience of children. Joseph had already adopted Vincent as a hero figure, and Lily gradually let down her guard. One evening, Vincent found her crying in the barn. "What's wrong?" he asked gently, sitting beside her on a hay bale. "Nothing," Lily sniffled, wiping her eyes. "It's stupid." "If it's making you cry, it's not stupid." Lily was quiet for a long moment. "I was thinking about Papa. I do not want to forget him, but I like having you around, and I feel bad about that." Vincent's heart ached for her. "Come here." He put an arm around her thin shoulders. "Lily, loving your Papa and enjoying my company, those things do not cancel each other out. You can miss him and still be happy that I'm here. That's allowed." "Really, really. Your Papa would want you to be happy. He would want your Mama to be happy too. Letting new people into your life does not mean you're forgetting the people you've lost. It just means your heart is big enough for both." Lily leaned against him. "Mama smiles more now. Real smiles, not the pretend ones she used to do. That's good, is not it?" "Yes, I do not want things to change too fast." "They will not. I promise." August melted into September, and with the change of seasons came the annual Harvest Festival in Fort Lyon. Helena hesitated when Vincent suggested they attend together. "People will talk," she said. "They're already talking." Vincent grinned. "Might as well give them something worth talking about." Helena laughed. "You're terrible. That's why you like me." They went to the festival as a family: Helena, Vincent, Lily, and Joseph. It was impossible not to notice the stares and whispers, but Vincent held his head high, and Helena matched his confidence. They played games with the children, ate roasted corn and apple pie, and danced when the fiddlers started playing. Vincent had never been much of a dancer, but holding Helena in his arms as they moved to the music felt like the most natural thing in the world. She fit perfectly against him, her hand light in his, her waist warm beneath his palm. "Are you sure about this?" Helena asked quietly as they swayed together. "About us. You could have any unmarried woman in the territory. You do not have to take on a widow with 2 children and a struggling ranch." Vincent looked down at her upturned face, at the vulnerability in her eyes. "Helena Thorne, I do not want any woman in the territory. I want you. The widow part, the children part, the ranch part, that's all part of who you are. I would not change any of it, even though it makes everything more complicated, especially because it makes everything more complicated. Easy is boring. You're magnificent." Helena's eyes glistened with tears, but she was smiling. "I think I'm falling in love with you, Vincent Oakley." Vincent felt his breath catch. "Just think. All right, I know I'm falling in love with you, probably have been for weeks. But saying it out loud makes it real and terrifying." "Want to hear something terrifying? I'm already in love with you. Completely, absolutely, head over heels in love with you." They had stopped dancing, standing still in the middle of the crowd. Helena reached up and touched Vincent's face, her fingers gentle on his jaw. "Kiss me," she whispered. Vincent was intensely aware of the people around them, of the impropriety of kissing in public, of the scandal it would cause. But he was more aware of Helena's lips parting slightly, of the hope and desire in her eyes, of the rightness of this moment. He kissed her softly, chastely, a promise more than a passion. But it was enough to seal something between them, to make a statement to the town and to themselves about what they meant to each other. When they pulled apart, there was definitely some gasping and tutting from the assembled crowd. But there was also some clapping, and Vincent heard John Brennan's voice call out, "About time." Helena buried her face in Vincent's chest, laughing and crying at the same time. "We're going to be the subject of every conversation for weeks. Let them talk. I've got you, and that's all that matters." The courtship that followed was constrained by the conventions of the time but sweet nonetheless. Vincent was careful to always be proper, aware that Helena's reputation was already fragile as a young widow. They were never alone in the house together without Lily or Joseph present. Their physical affection was limited to stolen moments, a brush of hands, a kiss on the cheek, an embrace that lasted just a heartbeat longer than strictly proper. But the emotional intimacy deepened daily. They talked about everything: their fears, their hopes, their dreams for the future. Helena confided her worries about being a good mother, about whether she was doing right by Lily and Joseph. Vincent shared his own insecurities, about whether he was worthy of her love, whether he could be the kind of father figure her children needed. In October, as the aspens turned gold on the mountainsides, Vincent asked Helena to marry him. He did it properly, on one knee in her parlor with Lily and Joseph as witnesses. "Helena Thorne, you are the strongest, smartest, most beautiful woman I have ever known. You've shown me what courage really means, and you've made me want to be a better man. I love you and I love your children, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you every single day. Will you marry me?" Helena's hands were shaking as she pulled him to his feet. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Lily squealed with delight, and Joseph started jumping up and down shouting, "We're getting a papa! We're getting a papa!" The wedding was small but heartfelt, held in the Fort Lyon church on a crisp November morning. Helena wore a simple dress of deep blue, and Vincent wore his best suit, carefully brushed and pressed. Lily was Helena's bridesmaid, and Joseph stood beside Vincent as his best man, taking his duties very seriously for a 6-year-old. John Brennan gave Helena away, and Dr. Morrison officiated since the regular preacher was out of town. The ceremony was short, but when Vincent slipped the gold ring onto Helena's finger, his hand was steady and sure. "I love you," he whispered as they kissed as man and wife. "I love you too," Helena replied, and the joy in her voice made Vincent's heart soar. The wedding breakfast was held at the Brennan Ranch, where John had insisted on hosting. A surprising number of people turned out to wish the new couple well. Even some who had gossiped viciously about the speed of the courtship seemed to soften at the obvious devotion between Vincent and Helena. When evening came and they returned to the ranch now, theirs together, Vincent carried Helena over the threshold while Lily and Joseph giggled. It was not a grand house, but it was home and it was theirs. That night, after the children were asleep, Vincent and Helena sat together by the fire. Helena was nestled against Vincent's side, her head on his shoulder, and Vincent had his arm around her waist. "Are you happy?" Vincent asked quietly. "More than I ever thought I could be again." Helena tilted her head to look up at him. "After Thomas died, I thought my life was over. I thought I would just exist, just survive for the sake of the children. I never imagined I could feel joy like this again." Vincent kissed her forehead. "I'll do everything in my power to keep making you happy. You already do, just by being you." The transition to married life had its challenges. Vincent moved his few possessions from the Brennan bunkhouse to the Thorne Ranch, his ranch now too. He continued to work for John Brennan in the afternoons, but his mornings were devoted to building up the ranch's infrastructure. The grazing lease provided steady income, but Vincent had plans for more. He wanted to expand the vegetable garden, invest in better breeding stock for the small herd, maybe even build a proper barn to replace the dilapidated structure currently standing. Lily and Joseph adapted quickly to having Vincent as a permanent presence. Joseph followed Vincent around like a shadow, absorbing every lesson about ranching, horses, and life in general. Lily was more reserved, but gradually began calling Vincent Papa Vincent instead of Mr. Oakley. a shift that made Vincent's eyes water the first time he heard it. The first winter as a married couple was hard but wonderful. The Colorado cold was brutal, and there were days when just keeping everyone warm and fed was a challenge. But there was something deeply satisfying about facing those challenges together. Vincent and Helena worked as a team, anticipating each other's needs, supporting each other through the difficult moments. In February, Helena discovered she was pregnant. She told Vincent on Valentine's Day, presenting him with the news as her gift. "A baby," Vincent repeated, stunned and elated. "We're going to have a baby in late August if my calculations are correct." Helena watched his face anxiously. "Are you happy about it?" "Happy. Helena, I'm over the moon." Vincent swept her up and spun her around, then set her down hastily, afraid he might hurt her. "Are you feeling all right? Should you be resting?" "What does Dr. Morrison say?" Helena laughed. "I just found out 2 days ago. I have not seen the doctor yet, and I feel fine. Tired, but fine. We should tell the children." "Are you sure? It's still early. So many things could happen." Vincent understood her fear. Childbirth was dangerous and miscarriages were common, but he was an optimist by nature. "I'm sure. They'll be excited." He was right. Lily immediately began planning all the ways she would help with the baby, and Joseph was thrilled at the prospect of being a big brother. That night, as the family sat around the dinner table discussing names and making plans, Vincent felt a contentment so profound it almost hurt. "What are you thinking about?" Helena asked later as they prepared for bed. "Just how lucky I am. A year ago, I was a ranch hand with no family and no prospects. Now I have you, Lily, Joseph, and a baby on the way. I have a home and a purpose. How did I get so fortunate?" Helena came to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "You were kind to a desperate woman who had worked herself to exhaustion. You offered to carry her burdens when she could not carry them anymore. You earned this, Vincent. You earned all of it. We earned it together." The pregnancy progressed well, though there were difficult days when Helena's old fears resurfaced. Vincent learned to recognize the signs, the way she would get very quiet, the worry that would creep into her eyes. On those days, he made sure to hold her close and remind her that she was not alone, that they would face whatever came together. Spring brought new life to the ranch. The grazing lease contract was renewed, and the cattle company actually increased their payment based on the previous year's success. Vincent used some of the money to hire help for the heavier work, knowing that he needed to be available to Helena as her pregnancy advanced. By summer, Helena was large and uncomfortable, tired of being pregnant and anxious for the baby to arrive. The heat was oppressive, and Vincent did everything he could to keep her cool and comfortable. He set up a shaded area on the porch where she could sit with her sewing, brought her cool water from the well, fanned her when the stillness became unbearable. "I look like a barn," Helena complained one afternoon in August. "You look beautiful," Vincent corrected, settling beside her on the porch swing. "You're a terrible liar." "I'm not lying. You're carrying our child. That makes you the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Helena softened, leaning into him. "How do you always know the right thing to say?" Natural talent. Labor began on a sweltering afternoon 3 weeks later. Helena's water broke while she was shelling peas on the porch, and Vincent's carefully maintained calm evaporated instantly. "Is it time? Should I get the doctor? Are you in pain? Sit down." "No, lie down." "Should you be lying down, Vincent?" Helena caught his flailing hands. "Breathe. The pains are still far apart. We have time." But Vincent was already shouting for Lily to ride to town for Dr. Morrison. He helped Helena into the house and into bed, then paced the floor like a caged animal while Helena timed her contractions with much more composure than he could manage. "First babies usually take a while," Helena assured him. "You do not need to panic." "I'm not panicking." "You're absolutely panicking, and it's adorable." Dr. Morrison arrived 2 hours later, by which time Helena's contractions were closer together and significantly more painful. Vincent wanted to stay with her, but Morrison shooed him out of the bedroom. "This is women's work, son. Go keep those children occupied." Vincent paced the main room, trying to distract Lily and Joseph with card games while the sounds from the bedroom gradually intensified. Lily seemed fascinated and a little scared. Joseph fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from the day's excitement. The labor lasted through the night. Vincent dozed in fits and starts, jerking awake at every sound. He had never felt so helpless in his life. When Helena cried out in pain, he started toward the bedroom only to be blocked by the midwife Morrison had brought with him. "She's doing fine," the woman said firmly. "Now sit down and let us work." Dawn was breaking when Vincent finally heard a new sound, the thin, demanding wail of a newborn. He was on his feet instantly, his heart pounding. Morrison emerged a few minutes later, tired but smiling. "Congratulations. You have a son, a big, healthy boy with a good set of lungs on him. And Helena, she's tired but fine. Lost a bit more blood than I'd like, but nothing concerning. You can go in now." Vincent rushed into the bedroom to find Helena propped up on pillows, her hair damp with sweat, her face exhausted but radiant. In her arms was a blanket-wrapped bundle, and as Vincent approached, the blanket shifted to reveal a small, red face with eyes scrunched shut. "Vincent, meet your son," Helena said softly. Vincent knelt beside the bed, his vision blurring with tears. "He's perfect. You're perfect." He kissed Helena's forehead, then carefully touched the baby's tiny hand. Impossibly small fingers curled around his, and Vincent felt something in his chest expand to the point of breaking. "What should we name him?" Helena asked. They had discussed names but never quite settled on one. Now, looking at his son's face, Vincent knew. "Thomas, after your first husband. He was a good man, and he gave you Lily and Joseph. Our son should carry his name." Helena's eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Thomas Vincent Oakley, if that suits you." "It suits me perfectly." Lily and Joseph were allowed in to meet their new brother, and the wonder on their faces was something Vincent would remember forever. Joseph touched the baby's head with one gentle finger, and Lily asked 100 questions about how to take care of him. The next weeks were a blur of exhaustion and joy. Baby Thomas was a good baby, but still demanded attention around the clock. Vincent learned to change diapers and walk the floor at night, to rock the baby to sleep while Helena got some much-needed rest. Lily and Joseph adapted to the new arrival with varying degrees of grace, and the house was often chaotic and loud, but it was a happy chaos. A living, breathing, messy kind of happiness that Vincent had never experienced before. This was family. This was home. As autumn returned and the ranch settled into the rhythm of the season, Vincent found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. A little over a year ago, he had been a solitary cowboy with nothing but his horse and his wages. Now he had a wife he adored, 3 children who filled his days with purpose and laughter, and a home that was truly his. One evening, he found Helena in the rocking chair by the fire, nursing Thomas while Lily read aloud from a book of fairy tales, and Joseph played with wooden soldiers on the floor. She looked up as Vincent entered, and the smile she gave him was full of love and contentment. "Come sit with us," she invited. Vincent settled on the floor beside Joseph, pulling the boy onto his lap. Lily shifted closer, leaning against his shoulder as she continued reading. Helena's free hand found Vincent's, their fingers intertwining in the way that had become second nature. "You know what I was thinking about today," Helena said quietly, not wanting to interrupt Lily's story. "What's that?" "About the day you found me collapsed by the chicken coop. About how certain I was that my life was over, that I would lose everything and fail my children. And now look at us. Look at what we've built." "You built it," Vincent said. "I just helped. We built it together. That's the point. I could not have done any of this alone, and neither could you." Vincent kissed her hand. "No, I suppose not. I never thanked you properly for what you said that day." "Do you remember? I said a lot of things that day. You said, 'Rest now, I'll carry your burdens too,' and you meant it. You really did carry them. You carried me when I could not stand. You carried us all through the hardest time of our lives. I want you to know that I will never forget that. I will spend the rest of my life being grateful for you." Vincent's throat tightened with emotion. "You do not need to be grateful. You would have done the same for me." "I would. And maybe someday I'll get the chance to prove it. But for now, just know that you changed our lives. You saved us. And we love you for it. I love you too, all of you." Vincent looked around at his family, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. "This is everything I ever wanted." The years that followed were not without challenges. There were hard winters and dry summers, illnesses and injuries, financial worries and difficult decisions. But through it all, Vincent and Helena faced everything together, their partnership growing stronger with each passing season. Lily grew into a capable young woman who inherited her mother's business sense and her stepfather's way with horses. Joseph became a skilled rancher who expanded the family's holdings through smart investments and hard work. Thomas proved to be a bright, curious child who kept everyone on their toes with his endless questions and adventurous spirit. And 3 years after Thomas was born, Helena gave birth to twin girls, Claire and Grace, who completed the family in ways Vincent had not known were possible. The house that had once seemed so small now rang with the voices of 5 children, and Vincent would not have had it any other way. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Vincent took Helena to the spot where he had first seen her collapse all those years ago. The chicken coop was gone now, replaced by a new barn. The house had been expanded and improved. The ranch was prosperous and well run, but the bones of the place remained the same. "Hard to believe it's been 10 years, Helena said, slipping her hand into Vincent's as they surveyed their property. "Best 10 years of my life." "Mine too." Helena leaned against him. "Do you ever regret it, taking on a widow and her children, all the complications that came with it?" Vincent turned to face her, cupping her face in his hands. "Not for a single second." "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Helena Oakley. You and every complication that came with you. I love you, Vincent. I love you too, more than I can ever properly say." They stood there in the fading light, 2 people who had found each other in the midst of hardship and built something beautiful together. The ranch spread out around them, solid and real, a testament to hard work and determination and love. Inside the house, their children were probably getting into some kind of mischief. There would be dishes to wash and animals to tend, and 1,000 tasks waiting for tomorrow. But for this moment, Vincent let himself simply be grateful. Grateful for the day he had ridden past and seen a woman in need. Grateful that he had been brave enough to help. Grateful for the life they had built from that single act of kindness. "Ready to go back?" Helena asked eventually. Vincent kissed her softly. "Always, as long as I'm going back to you." They walked hand in hand toward the house, toward the warm light spilling from the windows, toward the sounds of their children's laughter. It was not the life Vincent had planned for himself when he came west all those years ago. It was infinitely better. It was everything. And as they crossed the threshold together, Vincent said a silent prayer of thanks for the day he had decided to carry Helena's burdens alongside his own, and for the beautiful life that decision had made possible.